Today is day 2 of keeping track of my progress. Yesterday I was supposed to cut and edit the podcast that I had filmed on Sunday. I have not done that. I got too busy making dinner and then just getting ready for today. And then went to bed early. Did not wake up early, but not gonna beat myself up for it. There's always tomorrow. I don't have too many meetings today at work, so I should be able to get work done a little bit earlier. I do have my run today, so that might make it a little bit difficult to squeeze in some work time this evening. I plan to edit the podcast and finally upload it. I don't want to spend too much time on that just because it is the first podcast that I filmed and it's not perfect. And so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But one thing that I do want to spend more time on is just scheduling out my week and my days as well. Just because it's getting difficult trying to manage to do multiple things throughout the day and not either waking up late or going to bed early is what's getting in the way right now. And so I think I should be able to keep a more consistent schedule. So apart from editing the video, I'm gonna sit down and schedule out my week in time blocks. That's just some advice that I've heard from other people. I either want to spend 30 minutes watching or reading either a video or an article about buying a business. I want to get a better idea of what I need to know as a beginner, and then take some notes on that. And then that would pretty much be it for my day today. At work, I might squeeze in some of that time during lunch. Alright, just getting out of work. Today did not go as planned. I always forget that I have a night call on Tuesdays, and I try to plan out my day, and then I realize that I have a night call and it just throws everything off. Usually they're only about an hour long. The past few weeks they've been longer or multiple times a week, and I think last week I had one where it wasn't even like a regular weekly night call and it took like 2 hours. But anyways, that's my 9 to 5 for right now. I do plan to cut down the amount of hours that I'm working. I've already talked to my manager about it. Just because it's getting kind of ridiculous to the point where I'm working 50 to 60 hours and I'm really not even getting much out of it anymore. At the beginning, I was getting a lot of experience and learning a lot. At this point, it's more of just doing the same thing over and over in terms of documentation. So I wouldn't even consider it like an experience thing. Although I am learning new things, but it's just like, it's more of, I guess I'm just more or less refining what I've done these past few weeks or months. And so, yeah, I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really learning anything anymore. It's more of just working with the supplier, my counterpart engineering team, and yeah. I did have some time while I was eating lunch to watch a video about just buying a business, different ways of financing it. There's 4 main ways to buy a business. The first one would be buying the business cash. In order to do that though, you would have to have all the funds ready to actually buy the business. So you essentially have to be very wealthy if you're going to buy a business, upwards of 100 to a million, 100K, anywhere from like 100K to $1 million. I'm personally looking for a business to purchase that is within between 100K and 300K. That's what, just from what I've listened, just from what I've watched so far, I think that would be something that would be reasonable, or to at least buy equity in a business. So that would be the first way, is to have the cash ready, which obviously not an option for me. Plus, there's a lot of cons with going that route. You would essentially be down, you know, hundreds and thousands of dollars and not have any cash left over to actually invest into the business. Option number 2 would be to do an SBA loan, which essentially would come down to working with the banks to convincing them that, you know, you found a good deal. They would finance up to like 90% of the loan. The cons there is that you'd be in debt to the bank. Personally, I like to stay away from debt. Again, if the opportunity is right, I think I would be willing to take out a business loan, especially when a business loan from the government is, I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but that's what it seems like right now. You know, if you have all your paperwork right and the deal makes sense, it seems like you're essentially guaranteed a small business loan. But obviously there's going to be interest involved with that, and I feel like it's just a bit riskier doing it that way. What is nice though is she mentioned that the government will essentially fund up to 90% of the business. So that means that if I find an opportunity for about $100,000, I could essentially buy the business with only $10,000 out of pocket, which would be reasonable. For what I'm trying to do. But yeah, that would be option number 2. Option number 3 would be to use investors or friends and family, which I'm not a big fan of using friends and family when it comes to finances. So that to me is an automatic no. Using investors' money, on the other hand, I think that's something that I would consider. Again, depending on what the business is. And I think right now where I live in downtown Milwaukee, I think it wouldn't be too difficult to find investors who, you know, would be willing to make a deal. So that would be like an option that I would consider. You know, actually going through all the hard work of trying to convince people to invest in the business with me, or to essentially use their money for me to run the business. That would be something that I would be willing to do. And then finally option 4, which seems to be the less riskiest option, where you wouldn't have to deal with anyone else besides the seller, would be seller financing. And that essentially just means that you work out your own terms and you negotiate the details of the contract with the seller, and you can use the profits from the business to pay down the loan that you would essentially have with the seller. So the seller would essentially be the bank, and then depending on what you agree on with the seller, you would pay it off over a period of time, but then also pay a percentage. Essentially, like it would essentially be the same thing as taking out a business loan, where you would have to pay a percentage on the loan that you're taking out, except you would pay that to the seller instead. What's nice about that is, one, you're not dealing with the bank, and then you're able to be a lot more creative about the terms on the contract when it comes to finalizing the deal. And it would also be quicker since you wouldn't have to go through an entire process with the bank. And so yeah, those are the 4 main options that are available to buy a business. Like I said, I think the 2 that I'm gonna do more research on would be using investors' money to acquire a business, or do seller financing. I think doing a small business loan, I think that's gonna be like my last resort if I do find a really good deal, but the seller just doesn't want to do seller financing. So yeah, those are the things that I learned today. I hope this was useful to some people who are on a similar path in life. So yeah, stay tuned for day 3 tomorrow.